This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh, modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style, all for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
Hi, I'm Kristen Cloak, and you are listening to the Xcast.
Welcome back to the Xcast. The truth is in here. I am your host today, Carl Sweeney. Tony Black has had some other commitments, so he won't be here this week. Well, it's either that or I think he took one look at the episode title and he said, no way. We're here today to discuss episode 7 of season 11, and the full title is Rm9sbg93zxjz. And joining me to discuss this episode is Sarah Blair. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Carl.
Right, well, this title, apparently in base 64 code, it translates as followers.
Well, there you
go.
go.
Whatever base 64 code is.
I am not a computer programmer.
Yeah, I propose that we refer to this episode as followers from here on in. It's probably a lot easier for all concerned, isn't it?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, cool. And I think it's what a lot of fans are doing too. So yeah, we've had this 2-week break with no X-Files, haven't we? The Winter Olympics has been broadcast instead. So now we're back and we're in kind of the home stretch, really, aren't we? We've got, we've just had episode 7, just 3 more episodes to go, really. Looks like it's going to be the final season as far as we can tell.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It feels like it's been so long and yet not long at all.
Yeah, and like what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to talk about what Mulder was up to in this episode. But, I mean, first of all, we should probably give some general thoughts, because, I mean, this was a very, audacious episode, wasn't it? It was the one that was, very dialogue light, almost no dialogue at all. No other human characters other than Mulder and Scully, really. No named characters, anyway. There are a few other people in the final scene of the episode. So, very experimental, very different to stuff we've seen before, isn't it? So, what did you make of it overall, Sarah?
I think if you're going to do an episode like this is the time to do it. For sure. Just go big or go home. Why not? I mean, go for broke. If this is going to be it, do what you got to do, right? It's kind of funny. I finished watching the episode and I was trying to figure out what my thoughts were, and I was just thinking, what did we watch, Carl? What is this?
I don't know.
I like it because it's so different. At the same time, I don't know. It's out there that this episode is out there, like the truth. So, I think it's going to be one of those that I'm going to have to watch several. I've seen it twice now. I'm going to have to watch it a few more times. I liked it even more the second time because I could actually watch it. I was live tweeting.
Yeah.
And missed a lot. I think with no dialogue, it's amazing how much I didn't catch the first time with not being able to sit there with my eyes glued to the screen, which, I don't know, is that kind of a commentary? Is that the point of the episode? I think you have to have everybody's got their eyes glued to the screen all the time. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. I think that's definitely part of it, isn't it? But I felt very positive about this, and I've watched it twice too. I had the same experience where I watched it the first time. I did really like it, but I sort of wondered, well, maybe I'll sleep on it or I'll watch it again and it won't, I won't feel quite as positive. But no, second time around, I liked it even more, I think. And I think I've missed one or two things in there as well, which I was hoping you can help me out with as we're speaking today. But we'll see. But no, I agree with what you said, really. Like, why not do something like this? I mean, there might only be a handful of episodes left. I've got no problems at all with, like, Glenn Morgan and, Kristen Cloak and Shannon Hamblin kind of swinging for the fences, basically, weren't they? It's very experimental, very bold, and I think it was worth doing anyway, certainly.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that, for sure.
I mean, the main thing, of course, is, like, a real lack of dialogue. Not much dialogue at all. And I guess what I was thinking of was, I've seen some other series that have done this before, this kind of thing, and one of Glenn Morgan's other series, Space Above and Beyond, did like a near silent episode back in the 90s. And the one I was thinking of as well was Buffy the Vampire Slayer did a silent episode.
I don't think I saw that one since it first aired. I don't remember it very well, but I remember that it exists. But I don't remember a lot about the actual episode. It's been a long time, but yeah, it's a cool idea because, I mean, you get so much off the vision. Like, Duchovny and Anderson they have so much chemistry going on, and so much of what happens between their characters happens with the looks and the touches and the interactions that aren't spoken. And I really love that about their characters. So I think this was a really cool way to highlight all that. And it was a very effective way to highlight all that. I know there were a lot of shipper moments that got people raving when I was tweeting, and everybody just went pretty much crazy over. So yeah, that was fun to see.
Yeah, there were lots of great moments. But like I say, we're going to talk about Mulder. But before we do, let's start with that teaser, because it kind of sets up what the whole story's about, really. So it's like this narrated story from kind of like a robotic voice, isn't it? Telling us about this chatbot that was launched in 2016. And this is a true story. I completely forgot about this. I read about it at the time, and I'd completely forgotten. But this bot that was launched to kind of try and mimic human interaction or whatever, and within hours it was like sending racist tweets. And
I followed it for a while because I thought it was a cool story. I was like, oh, that's cool, it's a robot tweeting. And then I was like, oh no, unfollow, block. It got way out of hand.
It took a bit of a turn, didn't it? Because it started like denying the Holocaust, and one of its last tweets was about, boasting about taking drugs in front of the police, apparently. But I think the thing was, it had been tricked by humans into doing this, hadn't it? So this teaser, the last line of the teaser kind of sets it all up, I think, because it says, humans must take care in teaching AI, or one day we will be the ones deleted. I mean, that for me, it sort of set this episode up. It's this kind of like parable, isn't it? So it's, and like the messages in it are quite obvious, I think.
Yeah.
But I like the fact they didn't try and like disguise that. They made
it was not subtle. It was not subtle at all.
No, but they didn't try and pretend that it was. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I really, I thought the teaser teed things up nicely, and then we're into this restaurant date, aren't we? So like you say, some really good opportunities for Duchovny and Anderson here to do a bit of clowning around, and Duchovny's been mentioning this episode in a few interviews, like when he's been promoting his new album or something, and he's mentioned this episode a few times, saying it was great and he can't wait to see how it looks on screen and stuff. And so he really seemed to be into this one, I think.
I mean, it seems like it would have been a lot of fun for them to just, you don't have to do the work of memorizing a bunch of lines. So I think it would be fun. It's kind of, the whole beginning sequence is just them hanging out and just being silly together, which was so fun to see because you don't get to see Mulder and Scully just hanging out a lot. We have a couple of times in, what is the second episode, they were hanging out on the couch, but it was for 2 minutes, and then chaos happened, which, chaos kind of happens in this episode, but it's not the same feeling, So, the one thing I noticed is, why are they in a restaurant with nobody else? Like, I don't know. My philosophy is if there's nobody in a restaurant, probably don't want to like go. The good restaurants are where all the people are. So I don't know. Just, why are they there all alone?
Yeah, no, I think it sets up that because the way I'm looking at this episode, like lots of people are linking it to some of the other technology episodes, like Kill Switch or Ghost in the Machine. I think that's fair, but this kind of reminds me a bit of something like Postmodern Prometheus or Triangle, in the sense that I don't know, it's kind of taking place in a world that's slightly adjacent to ours, where the rules are a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really odd that they're there. They're not talking.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's nobody else there.
Is this what would have happened? Is this what would have happened if Mulder's wish had stayed the way it was in just what, and everyone on the planet disappeared and robots took over? Maybe this is that alternate reality. Yeah,
well, speaking of alternate reality, when I was first watching the episode, I was wondering if we were going to find out this was part of the simulation that they talked about in episode 2. And that's why things were a bit off kilter and so on. And I half expected that to be like the resolution to this episode, that they realised they were in a simulation. But that's not how it turned out. But
that would have been fun, though.
It would have been fun. Yeah, it would have been. But yeah, so Mulder, they clown around a bit. He takes a selfie with his head next to the blobfish and...
Yeah.
And he heads into the kitchen, doesn't he? And I thought this was interesting because that kitchen was kind of eerie.
It was so creepy. Yeah.
I mean, automated labour is probably... It's one of this... I mean, I don't know how much... I don't know much about it, but I think it's one of the big challenges that's probably going to happen in the 21st century, is a lot of jobs are going to be... people are going to be replaced by automation. And, I don't know, it's going to put a lot of people out of work, and... it's obviously got repercussions for things like customer service and customer service workers. So I thought this was a nice way to kind of depict that in quite a creepy way.
Super creepy. Robots and kids, creepy kids and creepy robots freak me out. Like, I mean, because I grew up when I was in my formative years, the Terminator came out. So, and Matrix... those two movies both had a really big impact on me. So, I mean, seriously, like, the robots really scared me in this episode. I thought they were really effective. And, when Mulder's going, like, one thing I didn't get is, like, why are they taking separate cars? I never figured that out. There's a lot of questions, but like you said, suspension of disbelief, just go with it. So I did. But, like when he gets back to his apartment and all that with there's like so much going on with his apartment. So funny.
Yeah, no, there is, yeah. And so yeah, we're going to come on to the issue of Scully's house, because a lot of people have been talking about that. But yeah, Mulder's still living by himself, it looks like. But in that restaurant, so it all revolves around Mulder doesn't want to tip, does he?
Right. And why would you, when you got a blobfish for your dinner? I mean, I wouldn't want to leave a tip to a bunch of robots who gave me a blobfish.
Mulder's tipping has been a bit of a running joke on the series in the past, I think. And I never really picked up on it, because I think the culture's a bit different in the UK. I don't think we tip as much as you guys do in the USA.
Well, you pay your workers. You pay your workers an appropriate amount, so... There's no tips necessary, like here.
Yeah, but I think in episodes like Bad Blood and stuff, people have pointed out that Mulder's a pretty measly tipper. So
Yep.
I thought it was quite funny. And it obviously, like, his intuition's a bit off, I think, because in a normal episode, he would figure it out a bit quicker.
Yeah. I mean, it really came back to bite him in Bad Blood, for sure. So,
yeah.
I mean... Yeah, poor Mulder.
But in this episode, I think normally he'd have wised up that he needed to pay the tip to get them off his back. But in this kind of episode, I think it just about works. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so then they kind of split up, don't they? They sort of take separate rides home. Well, Mulder drives home and Scully gets in a self-driving car, but we'll talk about that in the next podcast. Yeah, he has to resort to the map, doesn't he? Because his sat-nav kind of doesn't work on him, and it kind of, reinforces the overall message, I think, of the episode.
And haven't we all been in that situation where, you get the new car and you're like, no, I want to go home, turn on this. Like, we were trying to talk to the computers, and my husband and I had that exact experience last week. Trying to get the music to play, and it just wouldn't play. So, yeah. And,
two things there. I think I've had the experience of just becoming, like, increasingly reliant for navigation on, like, sat-navs and that kind of thing, to the point where if they're taken away from me, I'm sort of, like, almost completely lost.
But would you be able to at least get home, though? Like, I can understand getting to a place you've never been and needing it, but once you're there, how would you not know how to get home, at least in a general direction? That's what bothered me.
Yeah, I suppose if he'd never been to that restaurant before and it was in a different part of town or something, I can sort of understand why he might need it, especially if they came there from work or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that his lack of his needing to resort to the map, I think, is, again, in another episode, that wouldn't have come up. But here it sort of plays into what the writers are driving at, doesn't it?
I love that he still had it, though.
Yeah, very smart. And, the music was an interesting one as well, because like we said, this chatbot, starts being racist almost immediately from the teaser. And then here you've got the technology. He's asking for a Prince song, isn't he? And the technology, it doesn't want him to play the black man's music, but it plays Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young instead. So I don't know if it was intended as a racial comment, but I thought that was interesting.
I don't know. That's, and the choice of the song, like, teach your children well.
Teach your children.
Teach your AI well. That was a big theme in this episode, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things that Glenn Morgan episodes always do, is they take a pop song and they use it to comment on the proceedings, don't they? And I thought it was pretty good. So I guess then the main thing with Mulder is he's at home, and we get this kind of slowly escalating situation, don't we, with these drones. Well, I mean, it starts off as one drone, doesn't it? And it gets steadily worse from there.
Much worse.
Much worse.
I like how he just grabbed his baseball bat, and he's like, okay. And then, the one coming to pick up the one that he took out was really super creepy. And then when they all just start kind of floating in one at a time, it reminded me of Darkness Falls a little bit with the bugs. That was so creepy.
It really was, wasn't it? Especially because Mulder doesn't realise, does he? He kind of turns around and they're all there. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about Darkness Falls, but it reminded me of, have you seen The Birds, the Alfred Hitchcock film?
I love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a moment there where all the birds have kind of, they all kind of land on the climbing frame behind the characters, and they're not looking, and it recalled that moment to me, I think. And that moment, like you say, with a baseball bat, I mean, again, it's similar to the map moment, isn't it? You've got this sense that Mulder kind of reaches for, like, basic things as a solution to, like, technological problems,
Exactly.
And I felt that was very apt for his character, I thought.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like, he's Mulder's old school. Like, hasn't he said that himself? He's old school, or Scully's called him old school, So it makes sense, and it's fitting that he's this guy trying to make his way in this new technology atmosphere with all this stuff, and watching him trying to navigate that and just survive. Because, I mean, didn't he comment in one of the earlier episodes this season about how much the X-Files has changed since all this information with the internet and all that has come out, because now they've got access to so much more information that he's able to figure all this stuff out that is not really an X-File. It's just rocks and ice and science instead of a rock man out in the desert moving these rocks. It's just science.
Yeah.
So I can see how he could be flailing in this world of advanced technology and sort of getting lost and trying to revert back to his most primitive instincts.
Well, yeah, they kind of play it both ways, don't they? Because like in Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster, he was, he couldn't operate a smartphone, it looked like.
Yeah.
He had no idea how to take a picture.
Yeah.
And
This new app, I don't know, it's just this new app.
yeah, whereas here he's a bit more comfortable, isn't he? But some people have complained, I've seen online, that, Mulder and Scully, when the episode kicks off, they're kind of acting like millennials here. They're very, the fact they're not talking to each other, they're just glued to their screens, doesn't really seem like them. But I don't know. I know a lot of people of various ages who are very kind of into their smartphones and things. So it really didn't bother me, I have to say. I thought, I had no problem getting on board with that aspect of the story.
Yeah, I agree. It made sense because, you go out these days and I was out with my kids and I looked over at the table next to us and there was two parents and their teenage son, and they were all sitting there on their phones, nobody looking at anybody else, and they were all just sitting there completely silent on their phones. And you see that a lot. It's not uncommon these days for people to do that. And if there's nobody else around in the restaurant, they're just there by themselves, I can see why they're not going to just sit there and, just chat, I guess, because they do that all the time anyway. So I can understand why, if they're just waiting for their food and they, want to hang out like that it's just getting them with their phones and all that. So, yeah, it makes sense. It made sense to me.
I had no problem with buying into it as part of this episode anyway. And I think we'll probably return to what Mulder is up to in the next podcast, I think, because they re-team, don't they? Mulder goes eventually to Scully's house and they sort of see out the end of the episode together, don't they? So perhaps we can discuss that in tomorrow's podcast, Sarah.
Sounds like a plan, Carl.
All right. We're on Twitter at the X_cast. We're on Facebook at X-Files Basement, the Xcast podcast fan group. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to be talking all about, what Scully was up to, and then ultimately the end of the episode, what happened towards the end of Followers. So until next time, trust no one.
Have you heard about the 2018 study that showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? No? Well, now you have. I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company making traceability the new standard in the supplement industry. I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and finding all these things I was trying to avoid. High amounts of heavy metals, synthetic colorants, and unnecessary ingredients. So, at 4 months pregnant, I quit my job and started Ritual because I believe that all women deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies and why. I'm so proud of our prenatal vitamin. The ingredients are 100% traceable, it's third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals, and recently received the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. You see, we trace like a mother because, let's be honest, no one cares quite like a mother. But don't just take my word for it. Trace for yourself with 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.